Hello all, welcome back to New Chapters. My name is Sarah, and if this is your first time joining me, I just want to say thank you for stopping by for this chapter of my life. I'm a hobby hopper, so if this isn't the content you usually watch me for, I do hope you enjoyed this hobby as well, and will stick around for today's video. Today we're going to be doing another WIP&Chat. So first off, before I get started, I just wanted to show you guys kind of what I'm using. So this is the Winter Girl kit from Enabler's Outpost. As you can see, I've only done this little corner up here, but I'm going to be continuing working on it today. I'm also using this pair of tweezers here from Dreamer Designs. They're pretty sharp, pretty pointed, so hopefully they will not hurt me today. I'm also using for my diamond tray storage. Still, I have my Elizabeth Ward tray here with all of my diamonds kitted up into it. And then I am using the Firefly Diamond Art tray, their element tray. It has the base plates that can be removed and interchanged here. I am using just the regular grid lines today. Or I guess not grids, but the actual straight lines today, just simply because I am going to be placing with the tweezers. Since the putty was giving me so much hassle last time, I decided that I'm going to just single place with tweezers today, just because I know it will be more efficient and will go a little bit easier. But unfortunately, when I'm using this plate here, the grids for single placing, the tweezers have difficulty kind of getting in between those grids to pick up the square drills. So I found that using the just traditional lines at the bottom of this base plate make it easier for me to be able to pick them up with the tweezers. So that's what I'm going to be using today. So before I get started on how things are going for me, I wanted to check in with you guys. So how are you guys doing? How have your weeks been? Anything crazy or good or bad or otherwise happened to you guys this week? I'd love to know about it in the comments down below. Let's see if I can get this release paper up. There we go. This is just the double-sided release paper from Diamond Art Club that I have here today. Let's see, how much of this do I want to commit to doing? We'll just go with this section. It's a pretty small section, but I am only planning to work on this kit for about 30 minutes or so with you guys today, so we'll see if this is even too big of a section for me to get done in 30 minutes. Let's see, trying to make sure I line it up right here on these guidelines. I did not realize when I was putting on the release papers that I was going to have just this teeny tiny amount of overlap between my row of papers here and this 4x4 section. So unfortunately, it does not give me a lot of wiggle room to get that placement wrong. All right. So one of the first things I want to talk to you guys about today is just a little bit about my setup. I had told you guys that I was having some difficulties with my setup the last time I was filming and was really struggling to be able to still use my back camera and be able to see and all of that kind of stuff while I was diamond painting on camera. And I don't know this for sure, but I do think that I have maybe figured out a secret on how to get this to work. And when I say secret, it's not really a secret. It's more of a hack, right? So I think I have my filming setup figured out here. So hopefully I can film and it will be a little bit less of a headache. And that means I can dedicate a little bit more time to actually thinking about my content and like interacting with you guys and stuff like that. So that will be awesome. And that is definitely a goal that I have, is being able to dedicate a little bit more time into producing some additional content and some different kinds of content, and then just, again, interacting with you guys and getting to know you all a little bit better. That is my first update for you all. And then my next update, and I guess I wanted to also state, just so you guys are aware, I know a lot of people do like an hour long or so WIP&Chat. Maybe eventually I will get up to that point, but as of right now, I plan to probably try to just do like a 30-minute WIP&Chat, give you guys a little bit of options for those days that you want a little less whip and chat in your life, or you want to have something that's a little bit shorter to listen to while you're doing maybe a shorter errand or a shorter task. And as of right now, I'm not super involved in like the diamond painting community. So I know that a lot of people, when they do their whip and chats, they kind of give like a personal update and then they do like a diamond painting life update. And I don't have a lot to share about my diamond painting life at this moment, unfortunately. So it just makes more sense to me to just kind of keep it to 30 minutes and I'll kind of give an update about where things are at with my life and anything about diamond painting in that same chunk of time. And then I will let you guys go for the week and then I will catch up with you again the next week. So speaking of catching up about things on the next week, I did want to update you guys on my job interview situation. So I had mentioned in my last WIP and Chat that I had a phone interview for a local like mental health agency that is basically like a crisis line. So, you know, if somebody was having some sort of mental health crisis, instead of having to call 911, they would contact the crisis team and they could go meet with that person in the community to try to help them through that situation, so that they could remain in the community and not have to get involved with law enforcement and potentially end up going to jail or have to be like hospitalized or something like that. Assuming that the situation was minor enough that those things were not necessary. And I told you that after that phone interview, we had scheduled an in-person interview for Friday. So I did have my interview. I don't know yet what the outcome of it will be, but I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. I was very excited. I thought it went really well up until like the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of our hour-long interview. And there was just something that, like, the vibe, the feeling that I got at the very end was a little bit off. And I'm not exactly sure what it was. I don't know if it was something I said or what exactly happened, but it kind of, again, it just was a feeling I had. Like, there was something that changed about the, like, atmosphere and the setting all of a sudden right at the very end of my interview. And I don't know, at the very end, I ended up asking, like, you know, what would be the next steps moving forward if you guys did select me as a candidate. And of course, I'm coming at this from a background of like having experience in like law enforcement agencies where, you know, you have your first interview and then you have your second interview and sometimes you have your third interview. And then you have to do like a background check, which involves an entire packet you have to fill out, and you have to do like a polygraph and you have to give like a urine sample for like testing and all this sort of thing. And so that's kind of the perspective I was meaning from. Like, I just was wanting to know, you know, is this the last step of this interview process, or are there additional things that will come afterwards if I'm selected to move forward as a candidate? But I think it kind of got taken as a presumptuous, like, I'm anticipating being your top candidate, so like, when are you going to tell me whether I have this job or not? That's sort of the vibe I think they took it as, because that's sort of the reaction they had to me asking the question. So I don't know if that was something that was just, you know, all in my head about how that was going, or if that's actually something that happened and might potentially jeopardize my ability to get that position, which just stinks because, I mean, on the one hand, first off, I need a job, I need income, I need money. But it also was just really an ideal job for me. And I don't remember if I talked about this in my last WIP and Chat or not, but I did learn in the interview process that like the crisis response team that they have is something that has existed for like the last 30 years or so, but the way that it exists now is kind of in its infancy with their agency running it the way they want to. They've only been doing it for a year or two now, and this is their first like evening position, and eventually they want to have like a 24/7 around the clock team availability. But like the fact that it's sort of a new position and it's on the evening shift is really an ideal situation for me, because it gives me the hours that I want. It's something that means that like if I landed the position, I could kind of help spearhead the program and probably make it a little bit more or less like how I would like it to be, just simply given, again, the fact that it would be the first time that anyone would hold that particular role for this agency. So it would be really awesome to get it, but as I said, I'm feeling a little uncertain about it now after the second interview. I was really optimistic after the first interview. And again, I felt great the entire interview until the last 5 minutes or so. So I hope that it went okay. But I'm definitely one of those people who will sit here and stew about it and stew about it and stew about it and think about it and go, I should have said that instead, or oh, why didn't I answer that question that way? And kind of play it back over in my head over and over again, at least until I get an answer about the position. They told me when I was leaving, and after I'd asked my question about like next steps, that they had a couple more people still that they were interviewing, and then they were going to kind of come to a decision hopefully sometime early next week. So hopefully I have an answer sooner rather than later. I'll definitely keep you guys updated if I end up getting the position. But again, there's just something about it that feels a little off, like maybe I flubbed up or something at the very end there and potentially hurt my chances, or made me no longer a top or the top candidate potentially. As I told my mom and my partner, I think I'm very qualified for the position, but the only thing that could probably get in my way is just having somebody who's even more qualified for the position than me. I think that I'm a very strong candidate in terms of what they're looking for and like the experience I've had, but since my background is a little bit more coming from the like law enforcement side versus just straight up mental health, even though there's a lot of overlap, my experience hasn't been quite as specific to mental health. So I'm not sure that might hurt my like candidacy if somebody else is, somebody who's just worked in mental health exclusively and that's been the primary focus and like where their perspective has come from. And even though that's sort of the perspective I've always approached law enforcement stuff from, obviously that's it's still different to not have that job experience, even if that's sort of the perspective that I approach the law enforcement tasks from. So as I said, we'll see. I'll update you guys once I know for sure what's happening with that position. But in the process of doing the interview for that position, I heard back from another job. So I had applied to a a local educational support position, I guess is kind of the best way to describe it, that kind of helps monitor like after school programs that tailor to like an academic sort of client, like from an academic standpoint. It's not necessarily like an after school program where you're just doing some fun arts and crafts activities, or like I don't know. I've been a part of programs before that like focus on social emotional learning skills, where you're learning how to interact with your peers in a group setting or something like that. I think that's all that symbol. So I've been a part of stuff like that, but this one was more like academic based, and not necessarily like a study hall, but I think again they're more based on learning like math and reading skills than like emotional skills. But I did hear from that position, and that one's just a part-time position, but they emailed me and asked me if I wanted to set up an interview still for that position. So they had actually contacted me before I had my in-person interview, but after my phone interview with the mental health agency. So I had emailed them back and said, I would be interested still potentially in this position, but I do have like a job interview on Friday. So if you don't mind waiting, and if I can like get back to you to confirm whether I'm still interested in this position or not, that would be awesome. They were like, yep, no problem. So I went ahead and emailed them to set up an interview, just so I have kind of another option out there on the table for me if I'm correct in my feeling that this mental health job interview did not go 100% smoothly. So I have an interview for them set up for next week, and it was supposed to be an in-person interview eventually, or originally, I mean, was my understanding from like the very first email that was sent to me asking me to pick some dates and times. which is the one I responded to that was like, hey, I do have a job interview for a full-time position. Like, can I get back to you after I have had that interview? And when I responded back to that, I was told that the like program supervisor has, since she is out for the week, we went ahead and scheduled a virtual interview. So I'll update you guys on that one as well. But again, I kind of was like, I don't really want to put all of my eggs in one basket just in case my feeling about this other job that I would really love to have doesn't pan out. I want to make sure that I, have some sort of kind of backup plan in place, because again, the reality of the situation is I need a job, I need steady income, whatever that ends up having to look like right now. I can't really be too picky when I've been applying to jobs for months, and these are the first two people who've actually like responded back and given me an interview. So hopefully I hear back from them. Again, it is, since it's an after school program, the hours are nice and kind of what I'm looking for. Something in the afternoon. So that's a bonus if I end up with the part-time position instead of the full-time position. But since it's a part-time position, even though the pay's pretty decent hourly wise, like annually wise, it won't be nearly as much, just because I'm only going to be getting, I don't know, maybe 20 hours a week. I'll have to double check with them to see how many hours it is. I don't think it actually specified. I think it kind of said like 4 to 8, but maybe that's just my assumption about it. I don't know. Not 100%, so we'll have to see. But yeah, so I'll update you guys on that job situation. I want to know, are you guys out there looking for jobs and struggling to find them as well? Or is that just me? I've been reading a lot of like news articles about, different people who've gone viral about talking about their work struggles and trying to secure a job right now. And I'm like, unfortunately, I very much so relate. And even though I needed for my own mental sanity to get out of my other job, I'm like, it was not the time to quit my job without a backup plan and another job secured, because everybody I feels that's looking for a job is having a difficult time actually securing one. And I don't know, part of me, and maybe it's just like a pessimistic, like, oh, woe is me sort of mentality, but part of me wonders if it's not like with all the AI stuff that's being launched and used and stuff now, if that's not part of the problem. Like, obviously, it's difficult if you're like in HR to go through a bunch of applications and go through, whether it's 10 or 15 or 100 applications. I mean, no matter how big or small the candidate pool is, I'm sure it's difficult to like weed through everybody's applications by hand and like figure out or try to figure out who's the top candidate. But if somebody's using like an AI system and they have, certain criteria that the AI is looking for in resumes, so nobody's sorting through it by hand and they're just relying on like a tool to sort the initial interviews. I don't know. In my opinion, that just makes it hard for the applicants then to even get an interview to begin with. So I guess, and I don't know enough about how those tools work or how they're actually used to know, how much somebody might rely or an agency might rely specifically on the AI results versus how much they might still go kind of by hand and like double check what's being given to them. But it just sucks because it feels like, even though I've applied to, oh gosh, I don't know, at least 25 to 30 jobs in the last 6 months or more, or potentially more jobs than that in that time frame, it just feels like nobody is getting back to me. And I know I have a strong application. I know I have a strong resume and strong experience. And for some jobs, not quite as much so. But the jobs that I'm actually probably the least qualified for are the ones that have actually at least emailed me back and said, sorry, we're not even going to give you an interview right now. But like the jobs that I'm most qualified for, they haven't even responded back, period. Like they've just left me wondering if they're still hiring for the position. And I'm like, it's still posted on your website, so I assume you haven't hired anybody, but I don't know for sure, and you haven't responded back. And I imagine I would be at least somebody you'd contact for an initial interview based on your job description and my experience, but I don't know. Everybody seems to be having difficulty getting a job right now who's looking for a job. So again, I kind of just have to kick myself and say, well, it's kind of your own fault. You quit your job without a job to fall back into, and I don't know what you expected. I think I just grew up, seeing other people try to get jobs, and like no matter what the economy was like or what the situation was, you could find a job somewhere pretty easily. And when I say somewhere, I don't even really mean like minimum wage positions like fast food or as like a waiter or a waitress. Like the people who I grew up with watching like leave jobs and get new jobs seem to just find things actually in their field fairly easily. And it's a similar field, truthfully, to what I'm doing now. So I guess I expected it to be easier to find a job, but perhaps in this post pandemic world, things do not look quite the same. And I mean, with the economy and everything, obviously things are supposedly, they say that our economy is actually doing great right now, but it doesn't feel like it's doing great. So I'm sure businesses and companies feel the same way about it. And it's like everybody wants more money. But if you get higher pay, then there's less employees. So then you have less. All right, sorry everyone. My camera stopped recording briefly and I didn't notice. So I was just saying that, when everybody is applying to jobs, if you want more money, which I mean is necessary to live in our society right now with the way the economy is, um, like it's kind of a give and a take, right? Like if you want to be an employer who's offering a higher paid salary, that means you might only be able to offer one new position instead of two new positions. So if you happen to be the person who lands that job, that's awesome. But if the company doesn't have then the funds to hire a second person, that ends up meaning that all the other people who applied are unable to get a job. So it's kind of a weird catch-22, I feel, where there's not enough positions, but there's also not enough pay, and it just becomes a really difficult situation to try and like get a job right now. So, on a happier note here, I did just want to say that the way that ended up, the interview ended up going or ending was with a lovely lunch date with my partner. Since I was interviewing in the town that he works in, um, he went ahead and took that Friday afternoon off. So we ended up going and using some of our Christmas money and gift cards to go have a nice little lunch date at the Olive Garden. And then we went to Barnes and Noble, and he had gotten a gift card for like a clothing company that he really likes. So we kind of did a little shopping day that afternoon after my interview. And he kind of was joking about, we'd go to Olive Garden after I had secured a job, that would be my reward for getting a new job is to go to Olive Garden. So I was kind of giving him a hard time because I was like, man, I didn't even get the job yet. I just have an interview. And he was sweet and was very like, oh, I'm sure you did great. And I'm sure it's fine. So he's more confident in my abilities to have gotten this job than I think I am right now with, again, just with the way everything ended and how it felt. But we'll see. Our little date afterwards was quite nice, to just kind of get some time to spend together. Although I've been living this life of a night owl since I've been unemployed. So I've been like sleeping, I don't know, very insane hours, like from 4 a.m. to like 11 a.m. has been kind of my sleep pattern recently. So having to get up early, earlier, really, it wasn't even that early. My interview was at like 10 o'clock or 10:30, so I had to leave at like 9:30 and get up at like 8:45, 9 o'clock, something like that. So like it's not super early, but it was super early for me. And even though I tried to go to bed early the night before my interview, uh, I still didn't go to sleep until like 2 a.m. So I was pretty tired after having to socialize for my interview, which I haven't really had to do too much while I've been off of work, or out of work, I should say. But I was pretty tired just having to do the interview anyway, and then all of that energy and like joy I had about going to the interview kind of got zapped after I felt like things got weird there at the very end of the interview. So I was pretty tired by the time we actually made it to our lunch date, just because my body was like, you may just get up so early for something that seems to have gone so poorly by the time it all ended. So that was not fun. But again, I enjoyed our date, even though I was pretty exhausted and was definitely ready to go home. Definitely ended up taking a little bit of an afternoon break. If I remember correctly, I think my partner fell asleep for a little bit and took a nap, and I definitely laid in the bed, but I don't think I actually fell asleep. I think I ended up reading for a little while, but definitely was very much so ready to go back to sleep by the time we made it home several hours later. And after all of that, like as soon as I got home, I ended up talking to my mom. Normally we talk on Wednesdays, but since she knew I had my interview on Friday, she was like, why don't we just talk Friday on my way home from work? And I was like, okay. Because, when we had that conversation on Monday, I was like, yeah, that totally is fine. That makes so much sense. I'll have all the energy in the world for that conversation. And I was like, I am sorry, Mom. I am tired. It's like, I don't know how long I can actually talk to you about this right now because it has been a long day. But as I said, that it ended up being a nice afternoon, even though the morning was a little questionable at the end of it all. I will say the one thing that is kind of frustrating about this particular tray is, I don't know if you guys can see or not, but like the very edge has a little bit of extra filament. And so sometimes the drills will like catch right here. I wonder if I can get this one to flip around and do it again. Probably not. Let's see. They also get stuck sometimes like in this corner, or this edge kind of right by the side. But if they're a little bit big on the drills, they'll like catch in this line and it makes it hard for them to get back out. That's the only downside so far I've seemed to experience with this tray. But I find that if I, can get them dislodged with my finger, or if I got to put the tweezers in there or something, it tends to clear them up pretty easily, pretty quickly as well. So even though my camera stopped recording for a minute, I think I'm getting pretty close to the 30-minute mark. So I gotta be honest, I'm a little surprised that I was able to keep jabbering on for 30 minutes without feeling like I even got through all the stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about. So I might go just a little bit longer than 30 minutes, just so you guys are aware. I'm not sure exactly how much longer than 30 minutes I'll go, but I'll probably keep talking for a few minutes. I got a couple more things. I got some notes that I made to myself about things that happened so I could remember what I wanted to talk to you guys about, and kind of update you on if there was anything to update you on. Ooh, uh-oh. Where'd that one go? Lost one. All right. So just a couple more things here on my list to kind of tell you guys about my week, or some things that are maybe a little bit different about the week, or exciting news and all that kind of stuff. So one thing that we did learn this weekend was that, well, I guess I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. So when my partner and I moved into the rental unit that we're in right now, they basically like gutted the whole inside of the place. Like they did a really nice job of updating the flooring and the counters, and the only thing that really didn't get gutted was they kept the cabinets. So the cabinets all right, camera cut me off one more time, but hopefully it's just because it's dying, and every time my phone is like, you've got 20% left, you've got 10% left, it keeps shutting off the camera that I'm using to, or the app I'm using to record on. But so I'll kind of wrap this up shortly before my phone completely dies, hopefully. But the cabinets that they had in the place were not updated, so they're still a little crusty and a little outdated and in need of repair and a good scrub down. So we definitely cleaned those pretty thoroughly before we officially moved in. But that's like the only thing that wasn't replaced. And one of the things that they wanted to update was the windows, and just completely remove them and replace them. But the windows that we have in one of our rooms upstairs and one of the rooms downstairs in our unit, like apparently was a custom size, like it wasn't a standard window size. So they had to order like special order replacement windows. So that was, I don't know. Before we moved in, they thought that was all going to happen before we moved in. And then, like a week before we moved in, was when we were told, hey, we have to specialty order these windows. They're not going to be in for like 6 weeks. So we were like, okay, that's fine. Well, by the time that the windows came in, the landlord had lost the person who was going to be installing the windows. Something happened. They backed out of their contract or whatever it was. And so they ended up not getting to replace our windows before it got too cold and like snowy and icy and all that kind of stuff. So we did not end up with new windows shortly after we moved in. We thought it would be, a month to 2 months at most before we'd get the windows installed for us. So unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we spent the winter with our old windows that definitely blew cold air directly into my office. It made it very uncomfortable during the winter season. But it's been surprisingly nice weather here for like January. And all of the kids were outside playing the other day, and everyone else had their windows open. I was like, man, it would be really nice to open our windows, but they were just so gross and dirty and also in such bad shape that I was like, even if I got a window to open, I don't know if I'll be able to get it to close again when I go to lower it back down. Like something very well might break and I won't be able to close this window. So we hadn't used our windows at all since we moved in, which was really unfortunate because I love having my windows open when I can, when the weather's nice enough. But anyway, I ended up texting my landlord and was like, hey, I know we talked about the windows. I know you guys got them, like that you have them. You just need somebody to install them. I was just wondering if you had an update on like if somebody was going to be able to do that or when that might happen. It's just so nice that I'm starting to think about wanting to have the windows open for spring and was hoping you could give us an update. And so he texted me back and was like, don't worry, we didn't forget about you. He was like, I'm going to go ahead and call some of my people like this week and we'll let you know about the windows and like trying to find somebody to get them installed and all that soon. So I was like, okay, cool. So he ended up texting me back a day or two later and was like, hey, we've got somebody coming to install your windows on Wednesday. I was like, okay. So that's something I'm looking forward to this week is we should be getting our windows changed out on Wednesday and get the new ones installed, and that'll be awesome. I'm so looking forward. Of course, like it's supposed to be nice weather and then it's supposed to start getting colder again for the rest of the next couple weeks following the window installation that's supposed to be happening. So I'm like, of course it is. But at least I know that it'll be, they'll be ready to go when the spring weather actually is here to stay. And hopefully that can help, lower some energy bills and things like that when we can have the windows open instead of having to rely exclusively on our heating and AC and stuff as the weather does start to warm up. So I'm looking forward to that. That's really the biggest update besides job things is I'm looking forward to our new windows. So I'll have to let you guys know how that process goes and what that's like. I've never lived somewhere that is being, renovated in any capacity, but specifically windows related. Never been somewhere that the windows have been replaced while I've been living there. So I have no idea what that process actually looks like, and I'm intrigued. They said we need to move all the furniture and stuff away from our windows, so hopefully we can move things out of the way enough. Some of it's just an excuse, but some of it's a little bit reality too. Even though we've moved in a couple of months ago, I really haven't unpacked a whole lot of stuff because I knew the windows were getting replaced, and I was like, I know we're going to have to move some stuff around whenever that happens, and I don't really want to have to worry about like having everything set up exactly where I want it and then be like, and let me move everything now that I've unpacked and put exactly where it goes so that you guys can install the windows, install the new windows. So I've been procrastinating a little bit on unpacking a lot of our belongings because of that. So I'm looking forward to actually being able to be like, okay, now that the windows have been reinstalled, I can start putting up some like decor sorts of items and, you know, unpacking all of the rest of my belongings that would go in the places that are right in front of windows or near windows and stuff like that. So definitely looking forward to that. All right, well, I've got a couple more left of this symbol before I'm done with this color, but I'm afraid that my camera is finally going to die on me if I don't just wrap this up here. So thank you guys for letting me update you. And as I said, let me know about some of the things going on in your life this week. Anything good, bad, ugly, otherwise, I will take it all. And we can talk about it in the comments down below. But thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you're looking for more content related to this chapter of my life, please check out my diamond painting playlists. I'll have them linked in the video. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content about this chapter and others. Please leave any comments or questions you have down below. And again, I hope to be bringing you guys more WIP&Chats in the future, and I appreciate you watching my second one. See you guys in the next one. Bye.